Howdy of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Yellowstone Season 2, Episodes 4 and 5. So, honestly, for Episode 4, Episode 4 does kind of feel like a kind of filler episode. Maybe some people needed some time off or, something to do other than being on this ranch or having to do any number of their jobs. We also have Casey in episode 4 who is going and switching what he is to normally do so he can do some investigation, which it's kind of an interesting episode, but again, I feel like there's also a lot of time for them to take away from the ranch, and so I think that's pretty much the reason why they did the episode the way they did it. So if I'm to say that about that, episode 5 has a very good flashback. I enjoy the flashback part of it. We also seem to have another cliffhanging ending where we have a person who evidently forgot that they had done a thing once, and now they're going to have to deal with it now in episode 5. Creating an interesting cliffhanger, let's just say, for that episode. I'm really liking what Monica is doing with her class. Really just kind of interesting stuff. But it seems that Monica is to really just have that one instructor guy just kind of I don't know what it is with this instructor guy. I think his name is Martin. And this guy is to just go on and just be watching this girl, and it feels like he is trying to put his hat in the ring for this woman, and Monica is just no, I'm still trying to work out some things of my own, whether or not Casey is going to be in my life or not. And so it seems like it seems like Monica's making up her mind, but we're not 100% sure here. We're not really 100% sure what is really cemented or not, or just some kind of momentary thing. But we'll kind of see how that all plays out. We have the Beck brothers kind of coming in at the worst possible time to tell John, hey, let's partner up. It seems like we have the same enemies, so we're going to help you out. Possibly without you knowing. Probably forcing John's hand to alliance himself with the Beck brothers. And so, yeah, there's just some interesting things to be had here. I'm not going to be 100% sure exactly what all happens and every single aspect of episode, but I'll probably just really just say whatever comes up through the mind of which through these two episodes, and if they don't coalesce perfectly together, then my apologies. But there's a lot of going on, and there's always a lot of even if there's really nothing going on, there seems to always be a lot of going on. So, and especially 5, there's a flashback, but then there's also a lot of new characters to seemingly be put in the mix here, and we'll see how that all plays out. Yada yada yada, and so. I kind of feel good, and I'm crap. I hate the fact when I go and I watch a show to review, and it's either a show that is to be a weekly thing where I'm just I like watching shows in like a bundle where I can just kind of pick and choose uh like how I want to go into a show. Because if you go into like a brand new show, or pretty much that's it, where it's like a brand new show and you're gonna have to wait a week for one episode, it's like, man, this episode sucked. What could I do to nothing? I'm just stuck with a filler episode, which didn't take me very long to talk about. And now I just feel like crap because it's like, oh, I only spent like 20 minutes talking about an episode because there was nothing going on there. Hence why I like to double up and do double episodes, just in case there's only like 20 minutes of real talking time. I don't know why I'm saying all this. But let's go out of our way to go into that double five. Let's just go into that spoiler time. Let's just go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about the time you spoil this episode. Spoilers, everybody. Vicious, delicious, and nutritious spoilers. So, episode 4, because I have nothing to really just say for the preemptive thing. Probably even didn't have much to really say for the teeing up version of it either. So, the starting of episode 4, we have a dumping of, I guess, a poisonous alfalfa to John Dutton's cattle. And so we have Rip, Casey, and Jimmy going off to make it to their cattle, and Jimmy is to realize that there is something off about one random thing of their cattle, and so Rip is to go and have Jimmy get certain items for then Rip to take care of this one cattle. And so they're like, oh my god, like, how is it that this cattle got to this kind of alfalfa? And then so all of a sudden they see like a whole stretch of all this cattle all dying off because they all just got into this alfalfa. And so now John is going and calling up the sheriff, who of course is to be Sheriff Donnie. And we have Donnie, who has had problems with John before, but now John is to really just be like, dude, you are really effing up my stuff. Like, you are the laziest piece of sheriff, and like, God, like, John probably wants to figure out how to just get rid of this sheriff, because it's just like, God, he's such a lazy piece of and like Donnie is to say, it's like, well, hey, we don't have the manpower, we don't have enough people, because the sheriff is to go on and is to supposedly bring a wildlife officer over here, and so the sheriff is just like, well, we don't have enough men to cover a case like this. And so Don is like, well, just hire Casey, like, deputize him, like, go ahead and have him go and solve this case, because he will have all the motive in the world to solve this case. So Casey ends up getting deputized, and we have John, who tells the sheriff, it's like, well, hey, if he asks for your help, you come a-running. And so when John is with Casey, John tells Casey, it's like, hey, like, you don't pull the trigger on anything. You don't go and be a hero. You go and find this, you go and find the sheriff, or you go and find one of his people and let them pull the trigger. Let them tell you what to do. Do it by the book. And so Casey's just like, well, like, technically it's their book. It's like, well, that's why you have them, like, that's why you have them do everything, because it's their book. And so, like, if they're to F something up, then that's on them, not on you. So so Casey is to go off and is to, like, figure out, because Jamie figures it out, that I guess there's to be these, like, skydiver like planes that can go and possibly drop off this alfalfa, and that seems to be what they're thinking. Of course, that's actually what we see in the beginning of this episode, because the people are going and trying to look for some kind of tracks, or trying to figure out how these people got this in there, and there is none. And so John is like, well, of course, because they dropped it from the sky. He dropped it by some plane. And then Jamie comes up with the fact of, like, the skydiver plane can easily do that. So now Avery and this livestock agent, Steve, is going and trying to look for, like, some airfield or some plane somewhere that could possibly have some evidence or some records or something solving this case. But instead, we have Casey and this livestock agent going off to this one farmer who is to have the kind of the same thing happen to him. And so now, like, there's no livestock agent that can easily go to this guy's house. And so Casey's just to be like, well, get some mules out here and, like, that'll work out for you. And the guy's like, oh, okay, well, thanks. So both the livestock agent and Casey just go further on to making it to Jerry Hayes's farm. And so we find out that Jerry Hayes has gone on to numerous times do stuff with his cattle to make it look like wolves has gotten into him. And so coincidentally, both Casey and this livestock agent had gone into Jerry's home at the perfect time to find out that this guy had used a weed whacker on his cattle to then make it look like wolves had gotten to him. And so Casey finds this weed whacker, and so the livestock agent is going to arrest Jerry, and all of a sudden Jerry's son is to come into fray and pull a gun on these guys. And so Casey's like, whoa, like, hold on a minute, like. And the funny thing of it is that the livestock agent had tried to desperately call for backup, and the sheriff had denied their backup. So the livestock agent had to go and shoot this kid because, like, he was looking to be, like, he had a really itchy trigger finger, and this boy, like, was, like, kind of spooking or scaring both Casey and this agent so badly that they're like, we have to kill him, like, we have to shoot him. So the agent does so. So the sheriffs and John Dutton all come over here, and so now John is ticked because John is now asking from the agent and from Casey what all had went down here. And Casey's like, hey, like, I didn't have a gun. And John's like, that's no different. Like, you could have found a gun and shot him with it. And Casey's like, no, like the agent did. And so John goes and confirms that and is like, okay. And so John was asked, like, hey, where was your backup to this agent? And he's like, well, the sheriff just waited off. And so now John is ticked at the sheriff, and he's like, like, I said, if they call for you, you come a running, and you are such a lazy piece of kind of thing. And so they go on and they put this in the news about this whole event. And they said, yeah, like the sheriff was too busy to go on and not do this job, that a boy had to have been killed. And so they're kind of waiting on this sheriff's public apology and for the sheriff to do a much better job. And so let's go into it. Here's when the Beck brothers are to come in. The Beck brothers are to be really interested in partnering up with John, and so they come to his house, and John is to be upset with Jamie because John didn't bother to have Jamie tell him about this. And Jamie's like, well, they called to say that they were going to be here, but they didn't say they were going to be here, like, now. And so John was like, okay, fine. So the Beck brothers are going and wanting to kind of sit down and talk to John. And John's like, no. If you're going to talk to me, you're going to talk over there by the tree. We're going to have that conversation. So the Beck brothers are to tell John that they have similar enemies, and that Rainwater and Jenkins are working together, and so they gotta figure out a way to help John not lose his ranch, because they're thinking about it economy-wise, that at some point, a lot of people are probably going to lose their barn because it's going to get too expensive. And John's like, "Yeah, I know. Like, I know I'm not going to be able to pay the tax and whatever that is to come with this." So the Beck brothers are to go and ask, of course, John, like, "Well, hey, let's partner up then. Let's get rid of these problems that we have." And so John is like, I'm not going to partner with you. Like, it's not going to work. And because when John goes back with Jamie used to say, like, those guys are like making a deal with the devil. Like, you shouldn't mess with them because they'll hurt you. And John is like, well, with everybody being the way they are, like, where is there not a devil that you're going to have to make a deal with? Like, where is there ever going to be an upside to making a deal with anybody? So, so the Beck brothers go and, I guess, speak to the sheriff to have him apologize. And John is watching this on TV, and John is like, well, hey, why did the sheriff go and apologize for what he had done? And we're naturally assuming that the Beck brothers are like, like, we helped you out, so... Like, is this a good show of faith on their hand to just say, like, hey, man, like, we are going to help you. Like, we're trying to do something good here, and this is a show of good faith that we're going to do that for you. And so we'll kind of see how this plays out, and we'll see how, if either one of them, like, F one another, so to speak. kind of like the Rainwater and Jenkins situation, where Jenkins and Rainwater, of course, are to get uh, the shovels out because uh, they're breaking ground on land that they had bought, and they had put this whole deal together. And so now Jenkins is mentioning about like his liquor license and how he had lost it. And so Rainwater is like, well, I don't give a crap about the liquor license in your hotel. Rainwater is saying this. And so Rainwater is to just say, like, I have my own people that are going to give me my own liquor license. Like, I don't have a problem with any of that. Like, boo hoo for you and your hotel. So, so you're just going to not be able to serve liquor at your motel or hotel. So sucks to be you, because you should have figured out how to work that out. But I guess it didn't work out for you. And so now Jenkins is like, oh my god, am I going to really get F'd by this guy? Like, he's concerned about it. And so now Jenkins and this guy that he's working with, I guess his lawyer, is to be trying to figure out how there might be some way or another for like Jenkins to get out of this. And so the lawyer is like, well, do you think that he could like promise something, or you think that like, and Jenkins is like, what like he's gonna like pinky swear that he's not gonna F me? Like, come on, like everybody's just gonna be vicious. And I think Jenkins is just starting to realize that like he might as well just set sail and just be like, I'm just gonna run off to like, could we just have this guy consistently getting in more and more problems? To where I think we end up getting into like episode 5, where Jenkins is to be confronted with Casey, and now Casey is to go on to say that Jenkins was to poison the Yellowstone cattle. Jenkins like, no, like I wouldn't even know how to do that. So, but man, if I did, man, would I just, yeah, like I would just love to just do that, just to see your face. But sadly enough, I couldn't have figured out how to have done that if I would have wanted to. So I didn't do that. Sorry. And so Casey is of a course to believe him. And the guy that is to be like working for Jenkins, this kind of other like police officer guy, I was like, oh my god, that's John Henry Irons from Superman and Lois. Like, I guess since they had so much time off from Superman and Lois, I guess this guy just got like some side job as Jenkins' bodyguard in the show, which I'm like, great, like good that he's getting some more work. And plus, also he's on freaking Yellowstone, so he went from, or probably at the exact same time, he's going from like Superman and Lois now Yellowstone. Whenever the years of which that he would, maybe this was before. I don't know. I don't know what years coalesce with both of those things, because I don't have Google to easily want to go and search through that right here and there. So, so I want to try to see if I can get everything perfectly done here. Okay, so now let's cover some Jimmy stuff. So, in this episode, we have both Ray and Blake, who are to go on to Jimmy's grandfather, because Jimmy was to have said before that his grandfather is the only family he has left. And so these two guys take advantage of that and go to where this guy lives and go and beat him up. And so now Dirk goes to Jimmy at this at this barn and is to tell him, like, how much do you owe? How much do you owe them? Those guys that beat me up. And so Jimmy's like, well, $8,000. He's like, $8,000? I don't have that. So what are you going to do? How are you going to get this money? And Jimmy's like, well, I'll get it. I'll figure out a way to get it. And so Dirk is just like, hopefully you only have like 1 week to get all this money. And so now Jimmy is to, of course, like ask Lloyd, like, well, hey man, how do I get extra money here? And Lloyd is like, dude, like, you can't get extra money. You're on salary. And so you're going to have to go and like do certain kind of like bidding war, like games or whatever to, and you're going to have to be better than all these people that have done this for their whole life. And like, you're just going to have to figure out how to like do that, I guess. Some kind of contest or some kind of something here to just kind of swindle people out of money. And so now Jimmy is to try to practice doing this like horse sliding like thing. And I'm like, Jimmy, just don't. Jimmy, just don't. Like, figure out some other kind of way. Maybe you're gonna ask somebody for a loan or something. You're gonna like work it off from somebody. Like, when really possibly looking at it, I'm assuming possibly Avery may have ways to get that kind of cash, because strip club, maybe there have been certain people that have been asking for certain kind of things, because who knows? Maybe Jimmy could turn into a stripper for the week. I don't know. Maybe he can go off and do these like side jobs, being a stripper of sorts, and that might make some unique kind of money. Maybe Avery has some kind of weird, wild job of sorts, because Avery is to know what what's going on with Jimmy. And so Avery is to ask Jimmy, it's like, well, is that because what we had done? And Jimmy's like, no, it's because what I had done. So we'll see how this plays out. We'll see how this goes down. Hopefully this doesn't lead in someone dead because of all this, because that would be like horrifically sad. But I'm assuming it doesn't, because I'd randomly seen some clip somewhere of some later season, and so I'm like, okay, like, so something possibly had to work out somewhere. Maybe, no, we'll get to it. So, what other thing happened in episode 4? Monica. Monica is to, of course, go on, I believe, in this episode, and she is to go and teach her kids about seawater, or ocean water, to, I guess, be a alcohol equivalent, which is kind of interesting, to be that these people took ocean water and did it so that way they could like have some kind of alcohol, so that way they can kind of numb their pain. And so we have Martin, who's kind of listening in on this story, and it's like what Monica is to talk about here is so fascinating. I really enjoy these spots here where we have Monica coming in and like coming in here with some more um like kind of these backstories or history or whatever. Like it's really enjoyable. And so we have Monica who's to tell this story and everybody's just like holding on to her every word kind of thing. Because that first episode of Monica in this school, like immediately she kind of shuts everybody down to where they're like, I'm interested. And so the more and more, it seems that at first they were supposed to talk about Columbus, and then we really way off of that. To where even in the other episode, because Martin is suggesting for Monica to bring these people over to the reservation. And so Martin is to go and talk about this like relay race that these Native Americans are to do. And so Martin is to explain this whole thing. And then one person like, excuse me, like, how does this have anything to do with Christopher Columbus? And Monica's like, well, it doesn't, but like, you had fun, right? Like, you're having fun, you're learning something, right? And it's like, okay, I guess like this school or this class or whatever can eventually have a field trip of sorts. Like, I'm kind of wondering how long these like classes are, because probably like really lavish and whatever. But yeah, so like I'm trying to think, because I'm basically covering two episodes here. So I know Governor Perry is also in this episode, so that means that she has something to do here. So I know Governor Perry is to go on and she is to go and talk to uh, what is her name? Cassidy? God, I'm trying to like dig through here. Um, yeah, Cassidy Reed. Governor Perry is to talk to Cassidy Reed, and basically, since Cassidy Reed is now running unopposed because Jimmy was to pull from the race, basically, Governor Perry is to say, like, well, hey, like, you're, of course, going to win this unopposed, so we're going to basically swear you in after this X day. And so when John is with Cassidy, just kind of knowing about all this information, that's when Jamie is to pull John away from this whole thing and have him know about all the cattle's being dead. And then John has to kind of rush off and deal with that. We have it to where, honestly, Jamie is just heavily disconnected from this family, and he really just doesn't really give a about like what they're doing, which actually just kind of serves his family right, because we have John just telling Jamie, it's like, well, you know what, I don't really trust you right now, so like you're gonna have to like earn your trust back. And Beth is actually telling Jamie, it's like, you know what, I'm going to make you regret you ever coming back here, because I'm just gonna freaking get to you. And like Beth does what Beth always does best, and just freaking like, how can Beth just squash something else, and this time around it's Jamie, and just be like, you're gonna regret coming back here. And I'm like, oh my god, don't freaking let Beth get to you, because good god, that woman, she's scary. She's scarier than anybody else in the show. Like, don't let her get to you, because you're dead. You might as well just bury yourself right now, because good grief. Just get the shovel, Jamie. Just like, man, that sucks, because I like Jamie. I really do. But it's like, get the shovel out, man. Like, if Beth like sinks her claws into you, you're gonna die, sadly enough. one way or another. You're gonna go to a train station sometime soon. And so, and plus, I'm also thinking someone else is gonna go to a train station sometime soon, especially with the way uh, episode 5 is to end. But we'll get there. So yeah. So let's push on here. So, but I wanna make sure that I feel like I have everything covered here. Feel like there's a big chunk of something that I'm missing. Uh, no, I think I feel possibly good enough to go into episode five's cast list. So yeah, let me go into episode 5. Let me pause here for a second. All right. So in episode 5, I think I want to cover like the things that I probably didn't cover in the other chunk of stuff, because I kind of combined 4 and 5 together, because like all the stuff I want to just kind of get out there. So episode 5. So let's get to the big chunks. So let's go in first, because it's kind of what happens in the very beginning of the episode anyways. Let's go into the flashback that involves Rip and Beth. So Rip is to, I guess, really have to freaking earn his spot with these kind of hands when he's this young kid. And so he's like basically shoe shining and polishing all the guys' boots. And so there's to be this one mean like guy, one mean cowboy, I guess you could, like, instead of probably calling them ranch hands, I could probably just start calling them cowboys, because I've just been calling them ranch hands for so long. When really they're just like, you could probably just call them cowboys and just be done with it, except for the one guy who's actually to be called Cowboy, which I haven't seen him lately. What happened to him? Like, did they like? Is he just kind of scarcely used? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I've just forgotten about him for whatever weird, goofy reason. Because Walker is to technically be on this show and kind of helped Jimmy learn how to do his horse trick, which, excuse me, in this episode, we have Jimmy going on and trying to use this trick to win money, but that backfires, and then Jimmy has to go and give all these people money instead. And so the guy that is to basically beat Jimmy is like, dude, I don't even want his money. And so Rip is telling this guy, it's like, oh no, Jimmy's gonna pay you. It's the right thing to do. Like, because Rip is to have Jimmy, of course, learn a very valuable lesson that, like, hey, like you like, he didn't say this way, but I'm gonna paraphrase the shit out of it. So like, Jimmy doesn't know who's the prey and who's the predator, and like that's Jimmy's like biggest problem, is that he's gonna get eaten simply because he doesn't know the difference of where he is in the grand scheme of things. So, and so Rip tells Jimmy that in a different way than I do. So now in the flashback, so the flashback of Rip is to be winning over the cowboys or field hands. And so there's to be this one field hand who is to tell that Jimmy is to supposedly be in love with Beth. And he goes on and smacks this spoon on Rip's head, so much so then finally, like, Rip just goes and freaking, I think, takes a chair to this guy, just starts beating the crap out of him, to the point of this guy, like, pulling them off of one another and just saying, like, hey, no more fights. Like, Rip, go off and go and sleep this off. Because Beth was to go and see Rip, like after Rip has kind of gone on and starting to do some kind of odd jobs, like picking up crap and a lot of other things. And so Beth is to all of a sudden arrive, like after kind of preparing herself to kind of look seductive and kind of like tie her shirt up so that way it kind of makes it seem like she's revealing a little bit more skin. So Beth is going out to Rip and is to talk how Rip is possibly like John's new pet. And Rip is like, I'm not a pet to nobody. Like. And so Beth is just to be like, well, like if things are going well with you being his pet, like, I think I'll get me one. And Rip is just like, well, like, good luck with that. Like, go, like, I hope that's fun for you. Go ahead. Like, I don't give a like. So Beth is to go and walk off, and so she's realizing that Rip isn't really watching after her walking off. So Beth is to come back to Rip and say, like, you should be watching me walk away. That's the whole reason, like, I do this. And so Beth starts walking away, and so Rip has to forcibly watch. Because he couldn't he couldn't care. It's like, like, whatever. Like, I'm sick of this place. I'm sick of these people. They're so blah. So Beth is to walk off to have one of these other, like, cowboys going like, honey, like, you're you're walking like some kind of, like, I don't know what he freaking says weirdly or goofily, like mentioning that like this girl's really walking with some kind of stride or something like that, some goofy crap. And so Beth ends up going and like, oh, you shut up, you old like, you old geezer or something like that, and she walks away. So Rip is to go on, like, we have the one guy who's like, like, Rip and Beth are in love. They're in love. Just kind of like just devouring off of that one little thing of just like having only one thing against Rip to just kind of like, like, there's something going on there. It's like, who cares? So what? Like, so what if Rip is to go on with his, like, it seems like this guy has no life to just go and just pin on this one guy and like, you have something I don't, so I'm gonna just like give you crap. Or like, I don't know what it is. I guess with certain people, they just have to hold something over somebody. But I guess like that, I guess happens with like a lot of people, I guess, on the show. They need something just hold over somebody for whatever reason. I don't know why, but they just have to just continue to hold it over that person. So Rip is to go off to his bed, and Beth is just there, just waiting for him. And Rip is like, what are you doing in here? This is my room. This is the place where I sleep. So Beth is looking at Rip, and she can tell that he's just upset or angry. And she's like, why are you looking like that? And Rip is like, well, I'm angry, and it just comes out this way. And so Beth is now going in to tell Rip. It's like, well, maybe we can come up with something to like release that anger. Maybe you should try to kiss me, and like maybe that'll get some of that anger out. And so Rip is like, well, I've never kissed anybody, and Beth is like, well, I haven't either. And I wonder if that's actually legitimately true, or maybe like Beth, like, wouldn't it be a vicious thing if Beth at some point turned around and was to tell Rip that she lied or some kind of something, and be like, oh my god, that was some harsh that Beth said. And so, but yeah, so Beth and Ripped, Beth and Rip kiss. And so I'm assuming they probably do a little bit more of this, but like, we don't see anything, sadly enough. So Beth is to go off and be out where, of course, Rip is. And so now Beth is to apologize for what happened with Walker. And so Beth is to just say that she was to see something in Walker that was to be this good side of Walker. And that maybe her, like, making out with Walker was some kind of something where she could go and steal that goodness to make it into her own. And Rip is like, hey, there's nothing good in that guy. Like, you didn't pull nothing out. You just pulled air. You just pulled out a fart or something. It wasn't that good. But like Rip is like, well, hey, like you can kind of do that to me anytime. It's like it's that kind of like awkward, but also like Rip of course is flirting with a girl that like we can really just like say that Rip and Beth are to really just have this relationship, but it seems to be this like weird open relationship that like they say they're not exclusive, but like what else are they? Like it just seems like we just have this like cemented already. Like just say that you're together already, but they just won't. And that's perfectly okay because it just makes for more interesting television to see when these two do get together and like, oh, they finally tie the knot after 4 seasons later or something. So so another big thing. So let's cover the let's cover the Jamie thing. So Jamie is to be getting phone calls from, of course, Sarah Nagayan. You know, the reporter from the episodes before where Jamie was like, I'm going to tell my whole story about this ranch and I'm going to reveal it all here in this interview. Jamie is to realize that he had done that whole thing. And like he was probably at a bad place in his life. And so Jamie was to run on back home, sadly, because he thought that was like the best place for him. But now we really like have this feeling like there's no good place for Jamie to be anywhere. That Beth is going to make it a personal mission to ruin Jamie, even to the point of like Beth wanting to try and get Jamie disbarred within these 2 episodes. She's like, I'm going to figure out a way to somehow or another get you disbarred with this attorney general, and I'm going to tell her that maybe you knew something before like this case was going to happen, because Jamie is to also find out when like Beth had gone on and done a number of things. Jamie is to be ticked at Beth. And I feel like I've kind of, like completely stopped at a story somewhere. I'll get back around to it. Believe me, I will. So, but I want to get into this because this is much more interesting. So, Jamie is to go on and find out that Beth went out and took a trust on this ranch. Something with Casey and Beth, because Jamie is to call Casey and say, "Hey, what was this document you signed?" And Casey's like, "I didn't sign any document." Finding out, I think Beth forged Casey's signature on some document. I'm like, mother, really? Wow. So Jamie is to go to Beth and is to say, like, hey, like, what did you do with all these documents? What did you do with all of this? And so Beth is to say that she was to invest $5 million into this ranch, or something along. I want to try to like protect myself by saying, like, I don't know exactly what she did, but she did like a trust for $5 million. That's why I'm gonna try to protect myself here, because if there's something that messed up here where I didn't say something correctly. And so Jamie's like, that is a ton of money that you're putting in this thing, and you don't know what can happen on this ranch. You don't know how much money that we're probably going to have to just eat it for this ranch. Because I'm assuming now that like all the cattle was all having to be roasted and burnt and put to a blaze at the end of episode 4. Like, how many horrible things are going to be happening in their future that is going to all of a sudden have Jamie telling Beth, "I told you so." Like, you shouldn't have put that money and put that in that trust. Now you've basically just ruined this ranch. And I'm assuming it's going to happen. Like, something is going to happen from that. Because I feel like that's a big, massive thing that'll just ruin this whole ranch. Because Jamie's to say, like, if they have one bad winter or they have one just bad season, that they won't have that reserve money to go on and like keep this ranch alive. So Beth made a mistake, but Beth is just like, no, like I didn't make a mistake. So Jamie is to go and get these phone calls, and so he's not answering them, and so both John and seemingly Cassidy are going through this whole like case. And so Cassidy is asking John these questions, and Jamie could not give a single F about answering or questions or whatever, to where John is just like answering these questions, and then John is like, Jamie, like, just answer your phone. Like, go off and answer your phone while I finish this, because evidently you're having problems just concentrating. Because Jamie's just like, sure. Oh, whatever, yeah. So Jamie goes off and answers his phone, and so Sarah is to mention about, hey, like, Jamie, when are you gonna go and like finish up this whole story of a thing, and then go on, and so that way I can go and question your father about all this and do an even more interview. And so Jamie's like, well, never. I've decided to just withdraw my statements and whatever. And Sarah's like, well, it doesn't work like that. Like, So, like, get ready for some kind of lawyers or some kind of something to be coming your way, because you're basically effed now. You've already told me this whole story. You can't rebuttal or whatever. So, Jamie's like, oh, crap. So, at the end of this episode, we have Jamie finally going to Beth, and Jamie's like, oh no, Beth. I'm in some hot water now. After Jamie is going to the dinner table where Beth is to force Cassidy to sit in Jamie's spot. And so now Jamie is to try to figure out where the heck he's to sit. And so I guess he's to probably sit in his mother's seat. And Beth is just like, you better not. And then so Jamie goes and sits next to Beth. And so Beth is kind of jabbing Jamie like with this knife or whatever, just like, I'm getting to you, I'm getting to you. Like, you have no seat at the dinner table now. Stab, stab. So Jamie goes off to the bathroom and he's just like, I'm freaking, I want to just not be at this dinner table. I'd just rather just be anywhere else but here. So Beth is just to tell Cassidy that he has some kind of bad stomach, and I'm kind of wondering, like, I'm kind of curious what's going on in Cassidy's mind right now. Like, is she concerned over Jamie? Like, what even happened with Christina? Like, did Jamie just break that off? Did she just disappear one day? Is she gonna come back? Like, I'm assuming like Jamie slept with that woman, and like did he, like, after he like gave up that whole like position, like, is Christina gonna come back at some point? Like, is that like, what's going on with that story? I want to know. Because I'm assuming there's gonna be some kind of connectional thing somewhere. But I'm also curious where Jamie's story is going to head beyond just what happens at the end of this episode. So, like I had said, Jamie had gone to Beth and is like, well, I'm in real hot water now, Beth. And so Beth is like, tell me what's going on. And so Jamie is to tell the story about the news reporter and so on and so, and Beth is just like, you mother... And so now Beth is dragging, after Cassie has left, of course, Beth is dragging Jamie to John, and so now Jamie is to have to retell this story to John, and John is like, tell me, what's going on? Like, how much have you basically effed me? Like, tell me, like... Give it to me straight, kid. Like, tell me what's going on. Like, tell me what I have to be the most worried about. And so we have Jamie, who's just on the cusp of saying it, but cliffhanger to the episode, mother. So I think someone is probably going to be heading to the train station sometime soon. Or somebody's going to get branded sometime soon to earn some trust. Because if Casey hasn't been already branded, and technically it's part of the family, I'm assuming John is just going to have to just start branding, like, his family, I'm assuming. Just brand everybody. Just all of them. Might as well, Beth technically already has one, but it's on the inside. So, like, John doesn't have to go and brand Beth because he's already been. So now John has to go and brand Jamie because he can't be trusted. So So yeah, so I'm trying to figure out if there's anything that I had forgotten about here. I feel like chicken tonight. Um, yeah, I think I've covered. Oh wait. Monica stuff. Figures, right? So Monica is to call, of course, Casey, and Monica's like, you know what, I'm feeling a little lonely, and so Casey's like, well, I can probably figure out a solution for that. So Monica is to be going and having a seemingly towelette around her bate, and she's to make her way to the door, and Casey is to arrive. And so both of them go into bed with one another and just go at it. And so all of a sudden, Tate, after the business has been done, so to speak, both of them are laying in this bed. Tate is to be surprised that Casey is at their home, and they're all now like sleeping. But I'm like, this is so awkward. This is so weird. To have like Tate kind of like jumping in, like, yay, woo! I'm like, dude, they just banged it out, like bang it, bang, bang, bang. But I get like where it's like a kid could just be like weirdly just going into like his mother's room for whatever reason, and there we go, Bob's your uncle, so to speak. So we don't really know if that's to be like if Monica and Casey are just to be this like booty call kind of a thing, or if they're gonna get back together. I'm assuming it's just kind of like a temporary thing where I think Monica might just be booty calling Casey until they decide whether or not they want to get back together. Because it seems like both of them are at good parts of their life right now, much more so than where they were. So like we'll see where that heads, and I'm kind of fascinated to just kind of see where that trickles out. Hopefully they kind of like Monica probably cements it's like, well, hey, that was fun and all, but, and it's like, oh, okay, so they're gonna be like a booty call kind of thing. Because I just don't think they're getting back together as much as probably anybody would say, oh man, I want them to get back together. Like, there's probably a lot of people that are just like, man, like booty calls were okay. Like, Monica might feel lonely again sometime soon. Coming to theaters near you, she might be wanting to maybe seek other options, or maybe Martin is going to be pressing on Monica far too much. So we'll see where that goes with that. I feel like I don't know if I completely talked about all these stuffs. So if there's something that I missed or tripped or whatever about, I apologize. But otherwise, there might have been something also that I said, yeah, I'm gonna get to this, and then I never did. That might be a thing too, because I just like, man, I want to get this out. Oh, this is important. Ooh, yeah, this is good. This is juicy. So yeah. Did I cover? Yeah, I think I covered the Jimmy stuff where he goes on to like lose all this money, and so we'll see where this week heads. With Jimmy just trying to figure out desperately like where he can come up with money that he doesn't even have. So, yeah, I think I covered it all. Because I wanted to like cover the main things, and then I'll kind of backpedal and cover all the little stuff. So, with that said, yeah, I think I am done for this review. Luckily for me, so I think I'm going to get out of here. If there's anything that I missed, there might be a rebuttal for next episode, but I'll probably have forgotten. Like, oh no, I think I've covered everything. So I'm feeling good about this. I'm gonna get the heck out of here before I make a longer video. And so goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.